Okay, well, today we're going to talk about dieting and some of the things that I look at as a functional medicine practitioner that you guys might want to know. So we're going to share my screen here. And, first of all, I just want to talk about dieting. It shows that stats show that 95% of all diets fail. Okay. That's not a good statistic. However, we all know somebody who's done a diet and they did well, and then you see them later and you realize it failed. I'm going to go into why that, because we're going to talk about the genetics of it. We're going to talk about the blood work of it. We're going to talk, we're going to go a little bit deeper on that. And we're just going to start off with some stats on dieting. So, 49% of Americans try to lose weight each year. So that's like 50% of the country is trying a diet each year. About 43 Americans, 17% follow a special diet each year. And then it says the most searched diets out there are keto, Mediterranean, and an anti-inflammatory diet. And I would agree, those are all good, but we could dial it in even more if we knew what was good for your body and what wasn't. And we'll show you what that genetics test looks like on that. And we're not even going to get into food today because that's a whole other topic. Anyhow, 80% of weight loss by special diets is regained within 5 years. Okay, so they're saying it's all regained. It says 1 in 3 dieters progress to a pathological dieting, and 20% of those develop an eating disorder. So dieting is really hard. So that's why I want to talk about this today, because I know it's hard. I've tried it, I've done it, and it's really hard until you figure your body out. And so what I'm going to show you is some things that we do genetically and blood work we look at that keep that in check. And then when you do dieting, you own it. You don't have to be, you have to starve yourself, or you don't have to get on this weird diet that it's not maintainable. And then I just want to give one more stat here, and then we'll get into what we're going to talk about. US weight loss industry grows to 90 billion, fueled by the obesity drugs demand. And so we all know what we're talking about, the Wegovy's and all those. And I'm not saying those are a bad thing. I think if someone's morbidly obese, they should probably try those, but I would not want to do those. They do cause GI problems, and it could slow down. They call it peristalsis. It could stop, your GI tract could stop, and you could have a blockage, and that's the long-term effects on that. So you want to be real careful. So I would try some of these other things before I would try that, because I think in the long run, a few years down the road, we're going to see that these diets, these obesity drugs are probably going to be a bad thing in the long run for some people. Okay. So one of the things I look at when I'm doing genetics on somebody. This is a diet and wellness panel we run here at Walsh Health Solutions. And this is kind of giving us this says the best diets for weight loss. So this is going to kind of tell us if it's genetically, what is best for you. A low fat, high protein diet should work well for weight loss. And on those, it says you can expect 2.5 times expected weight loss with a low fat diet. So this dials it in. This tells us genetically what diet will work best for you. On this one, it's saying a Mediterranean diet should work well. On this one, it's saying a paleo diet should work well. So depending upon what happens over here on the genetics, this would give us a good idea of what diet would work best for you. Another gene we can check here is fatty acid metabolism. We check two genes for that. And what that means is, if this gene here, as it's positive, as it's yellow, you see one positive, it's increased incidence of obesity. So this person here is going to have a hard time breaking down fat. So this person probably wouldn't do great with ketogenic diet, because there might be a lot of fat in it. So they may do better with a paleo diet or Mediterranean diet. And this person here, they don't have the gene, but if they did, it would be increased risk for hyperlipidemia. And we don't want that. That can cause a lot of issues. So there are genes we can check. And then you've heard about the fasting craze. A lot of people do fasting. And so this gene here says this person would have a poor response to fasting. So we would want to know, because some people do, they can fast for, 16, 18 hours a day. And sometimes they can do longer fasts, like 24 hours, 36 hours, 48 hours, or even longer. And they do really well. That's because their body's designed for that. But other people, if they do that, they could, their blood sugar could go really low, become hypoglycemic, and they could pass out. So if if they could do intermittent fasting, we'll have them do intermittent fasting. If they can't, well, then we know why they can't. Um, and these are two genes I like looking at for people who are struggling with weight, because these are satiety genes. So these are basically, like here it's going to say decreased leptin receptor response indicates decreased satiety. So, you know, they're going to have a hard time feeling full, these people. And this gene here, this is going to be increased hunger response and increased reward systems for alcohol and sweets. So they're going to like alcohol and sugar. And I know I tend to, like, if I do drink alcohol, I tend to be a little bit more loose with my diet and maybe have more sugar than I should. So I probably have this gene. I haven't been checked for it, but I would assume I do. So this is where calorie restriction would work well. Small portions, low calorie should work well for weight management. So, and this is where the leptin drugs or the appetite suppressants would work if you had these genes. Okay, now if you don't have these genes, you probably don't want to do these drugs. But if you do, that would say, okay, well, now you know why those drugs would work for you and why you need them, because you're going to have a hard time feeling full. Um, I'll pick another one here. Here's another gene I like to look at, the sweet preference. So these people have an increased preference for sweet foods. And so these people literally have a sweet tooth. So if you have this gene and this person has it, it's positive, double positive, homozygous. That means they got one from mom and one from dad. They are at increased risk for sugar intake. So you want to consider monitoring your sugar. This person here is going to want to eat sweets all the time. Okay. And this would push them more towards, we'd want to push them away from that and have less sugar, because they're probably going to gain weight. They're probably going to become a diabetic. It's not going to be good for them. I'll show a couple other genes here. Oh, these are some good genes. The intensity of exercise. I did have a patient a while back, and she was walking for a long time. She would walk like 5, 6, 7 miles a day, and she was not losing weight. Okay. Well, here's why, because she had these genes over here. I can't remember which one was positive, but they were. And what happens is she has to do high intensity interval training. So I asked her, I said, so when do you remember being able to, lose weight easily? And she remembered when she was playing basketball in high school, she would lose weight really quick. And I'm like, well, yeah, we all lost weight back then. However, she's like, no, it was different. It really did work. So when we ran this test on her, these genes came back positive. And so we had her go to do like a CrossFit and a CrossFit gym, because that's higher interval training, intensity training. And it really worked for her. She lost like 20 pounds was like within a month, but she was walking miles and miles and miles for months and months and months and couldn't lose a pound. And she was watching what she was eating. So this really gets people dialed in. And I tend to be this way. I don't really benefit from walking. It probably benefits me some, but if I want to lose weight, I'm one who has to get on the treadmill and do the interval training, run, walk, run, walk. I have to do things like that. So anyway, this is one of the genetics tests we run on people. And I'm just saying this because I know right now is the end of the year. Christmas is coming. People probably gaining weight now. Come January, they're going to want to lose weight. And so you really gotta know what you're dealing with, or otherwise you're playing a game and you really don't know the rules to it. And you're never going to really own your weight loss. I feel like now I own my weight loss. Because I know what my body needs and I know what my body doesn't need. And I exercise on a regular basis. So, and it all just comes down to being consistent. Here's another few genes we look at. If these two genes here are positive, it's just letting us know you're probably going to have blood sugar issues. It's going to lead to metabolic syndrome, type 2 diabetes. And, some of the things you can do for that are intermittent fasting, watch your sugar, and exercise. So when I see these on somebody positive, these ATG genes, we call them, we just know they're going to be prone towards type 2 diabetic. They're going to be a type 2 diabetic or come down with metabolic syndrome first, then become a type 2 diabetic. And it's going to be hard for them to lose weight. So this kind of gives us a pretty good idea of what's going on. And then when we look at blood work, I know a lot of doctors are looking at your blood work, but if you go to your doctor and they're going to look at things, I really want them to look at your glucose levels, your hemoglobin A1C levels, and I would say if I had three to pick, I'd say look at your fasting insulin levels. Um, because when these get high, the glucose, we want that to be normals under 100. If you go over 100, you're in metabolic syndrome. If you go 125, you're considered a diabetic. Hemoglobin A1C, we want that below 5.7, and that's just an average of over 90 days of how much sugar you've taken in. And then we want to look at insulin. A lot of doctors don't look at insulin, but I'll tell you, your insulin levels are going to go high, and when they drop and when you can't make insulin anymore, then the glucose and the hemoglobin A1C is going to get out of control. So if you're looking at these all the time and you're not looking at your fasting insulin, when these start going up, you can't make insulin anymore. And by then it's almost too late because you're becoming a type 2 diabetic by then. So I would want to look at these every year, these fasting insulin levels, because when those start going high, it's going to keep these in check, and you got to manage this first, and then these won't go high if you manage the insulin. So, and I'll show you what that looks like here. So here we go. This is a perfect example. If you're at 126, you're probably a diabetic. If you're between 100 and 126, you're metabolic syndrome. This is diabetes. And I like to see him under 90. They say under 100, but I like to see him under 90. This person's at 88. They're pretty good, but that's a good score. On the hemoglobin A1C, this is a good score. 5.4 is great. If you're below 5.6, that's good. And so most doctors are going to look at these two things. Now, this person has really good glycemic control. They're really good. I wish most of my patients were like this. This is just an example I'm showing you. And then when we look at the insulin levels, this is a really good insulin level. They'll say you can go up to 25, basically. I don't like it there. This person is at 4.2. I would say a good insulin level is probably 3 to 6. If you can get below 9, that's a victory. Most patients I see coming in here are probably closer to 25. Okay. And like I said, when you run out of insulin, your insulin's going to be high and it's going to manage your sugar. Okay. It's going to manage the sugar in your blood. But when you stop making it or can't make it anymore, then it's not going to manage. And then these numbers are going to go high. Okay. But as you can see, this person is metabolically sound, and they're metabolically, this person is fit. So they're probably a runner or exercise and probably have good genetics. And they probably don't eat a lot of sugar, a lot of grains, stay away from that stuff. So if I could tell you two things to stay away from to help this out, I'll give you some advice. I would say, watch the grains, try to stay away from grains. Next, watch the sugar, very little sugar intake. And then I would say, eat 2 meals a day, maybe not 3 all the time. And and exercise, and that will keep these numbers down. Like I said, this person is metabolically fit. They have they have their glycemic control down. Okay. But most people are not like this. But this is the only example I had. So, and then if there is something that you could take supplement wise, what I would recommend for the patients, it would probably be this. It's called Metabolic Stimulator Pro. And what it does is helps decrease sugar and carbohydrate cravings, decrease fatigue, improve immune support, fewer memory issues and less brain fog, decreased weight gain. We all want that. Greater hormone regularity, fewer hangry sensations. That means you're not getting angry when you're hungry, and balanced blood sugars, which we want. And what it has in it, it has chromium pichloronate, it has inositol, it has myoinositol and dechiroinositol. Those are really good to help the cell regulate the sugar. Has phosphatidylserine in it and has lithium orotate in it. Now, all these things, these act like metformin, the drug that most doctors are going to put people on if their glucose levels are over 100 consistently. Before they become a type 2 diabetic, they will put them on metformin. This is a supplement. It's not hard on your system, but if you do all those things that we talked about, you watch the grains, you watch the sugar, you eat 2 meals a day, you exercise, you take something like this. I mean, all those things there are going to get you fit to where your levels are going to look like this person's levels. This is the goal if you can get there. So when you do go to the doctor, just, this is what you want ran, a glucose. You want it to be under 90, like we talked about. Um, and then we also look at hemoglobin A1C. We definitely want that to be under 5.4. And then we also are looking at the insulin levels. We're looking at insulin. We want the insulin levels to be, they're saying 25. We want them to be under, I like them under 9. I say optimal is 3 to 6. Okay. So if we're looking at these, when you go get your yearly exam, because I've been talking to a lot of people, and a lot of people get their yearlies done like at the end of the year, the beginning of the year. These are markers I really want you to look at, because if these get out of whack, these people will have metabolic syndrome, and they will have, and these people are the people that come in and they say, I'm having a hard time losing weight. Well, you will have a hard time losing weight if your blood sugar levels are up. And so think about it this way. If you when you eat, you're releasing insulin. And when you release insulin, you cannot burn fat. You cannot burn fat. It gets stored. So when you eat those calories, it's stored. It takes about 4 to 5 hours to digest a meal. So think about that. If it takes 4 to 5 hours to digest a meal, you can't be snacking at 2 or 3 hours after you've eaten your meal. You're not even done digesting the meal you just ate. Okay. And so, try to give you pointers like that so you have a fighting chance, because back when I was trying to lose weight and I was struggling, I was snacking a lot. There's no way you can lose weight snacking. Even, and they'll go, "Oh, it's just a healthy snack." No, there is no healthy snack. If you eat when you eat and do not snack, you do not want these insulin levels going up. If they go up, it increases inflammation. And again, you go to fat storage, not fat burning. So, in order to get to fat burning, you got to fast. And so, I try to tell people, if you can go, anywhere from minimum of 12 hours fasting to a maximum day, if we're just going a day, 16 to 18 hours, that would mean you would eat within like an 8 or 6 hour window. Okay. And if you did that and did more whole foods, stay away from grains and sugars, that would make a huge difference. And you'd see these scores come down, because I see a lot of people who have metabolic syndrome or on the verge of it. And when you start having metabolic syndrome, not only do you gain weight, but you also start having cardiovascular issues. Your cholesterol goes up, things like that. Your LDL goes up, all those things go up. So now you become a risk for cardiovascular disease. Um, so we don't want that. And so anyway, I hope this information is helpful.